Hello, g'day, welcome, and howdy, all. Hope you guys are well. Thank you again for joining in and being part of Ram It Up podcast, along with friend here, Warriors, and our Fanatics. We are going to talk about all things rugby league. We're going to be diving into it, and we hope you guys are well. Before we kick things off, though, Fanatics, how are you, man? And what's been happening?
Yeah, I'm doing great. It's great to be back on again. Obviously this is the second time on your channel, new pointed channel, and yeah, I'm doing well. Not a lot's been happening. Bit of a quiet week. But yeah, it's really good to be back on here. And we talk about the international footy. We love international footy, you and me, and obviously we share a real big passion for it. And yeah, the Pacific Championships is actually coming up this week, so we got a bit of rugby league to enjoy, and can't wait to it because it's always great the cultures and the different different teams in action, especially when you like to watch the likes of Fiji, Cook Islands, Kiwis, Samoa, Tonga. It's always good. So, but this week we've got the two games, which I'm looking forward to digest, review, and get into and talk about for this weekend's action. So, yeah, great to be back on here and looking forward to talking all things international rugby league with you.
Awesome as bro, and yeah, look, you sort of you took the words out of my mouth. These culture, these community, these family, these experiences. But overall, there's rugby league, which we absolutely love, and it's international as well. Um, Fanatics and I are big proponents for international rugby league. We think it is the pinnacle of the game, and it should be definitely taken care of. And it's great to see the Pacific Championships on display coming this week end. So we cannot wait. But before we start, guys, obviously, again, welcome. Hello. Hope you guys are well. We send you guys good wishes and all that stuff. But before we kick things off there, Fanatics, we sort
Yeah.
of need to go here. A bit of NRL news. So, guys, I'm not sure if you guys know, ladies and gents, um, there was a bit of talk there, and things happened in the last couple of days, or should I say the last week. First of all, this morning, today, NRL, right? Rugby 360. Long story short, it's a separate entity to World Rugby. That's to clarify, it is. It's a separate entity to World Rugby, and this person here has created, and it's basically a showcase or a circuit of rugby played in different parts of the world, from Tokyo to Dubai to Miami to wherever
Mm.
you get. Anyway, Peter V'landys has come out and he said if any player is to partake, and I'm assuming who's contracted, there will be a 10-year ban for the NRL player. Fanatics, what are your thoughts on this? And then I'll follow suit as well. But give me your thoughts on this one here.
Yeah, this one is just been announced. I think this afternoon. And yeah, look, it's obviously there's a lot. It's a big talking point at the moment around well, the global sporting community, especially with rugby and rugby league, and I know the All Blacks and all these other teams are, having their say on it, and whether this should be happening, and look, yeah, NRL coming out and bringing a 10-year ban is a big is massive. It's massive because if you want to play NRL and you're in the R60 rugby comp, then you can't come back and play NRL. So look, I know there's some people that love it, and I know some people that will support it because people don't want to see NRL players from our game taken out of our game to go and play rugby 360, this rugby 360 competition, which is when you think about it, it's the money that is on offer here in this one. That's why players maybe thinking about going there. More so, it's more so about the money. Of course, NRL can't compete with that money as well. So yeah, I don't know. Like personally, I can see why the NRL want to do this. But in saying that, is it really going to stop players from going to R360? And what if some players from the R360 want to actually come back in the NRL and look? It might be a bit harsh to say you can't come back and play NRL. I don't know. Like that's what I personally feel. I haven't really had a long thought about this one actually, because it was only just announced not long ago. But yeah, I don't know. Like for me, it may be a bit harsh. Some people may not agree with me on this one, but I think it may be a little bit harsh to say that you can't play NRL. Look, it's the players' decisions at the end of the day. Look, you'd understand their reasons if they wanted to go and chase the money. It might feel unloyal, you might feel like you're doing the NRL disservice by doing that, but they might be thinking, look, I've been in the NRL a long time, and I want to go try something different, and I want to go get some money elsewhere. You know, explore other cities, other towns. But then, why am I being punished for it? Why am I being punished for doing that? Like, it's my decision at the end of the day. So I don't know. It feels like players are forced into a decision to have to play. If you want to play NRL and you want to play R60 and you want to come back and play NRL again, then that's not an option now. So I don't know. That's just what I personally feel right now. That's what I feel about this decision. So yeah, what do you think? Ram it up on this one.
Yeah, look, I think I feel similar to you.
Mm,
Um, to be fair, in the sense that I think I understand where the NRL is coming from, in the sense
yeah.
that obviously, if you're a contracted player, you are technically owned by the NRL. That's just how it works, right? In all sports, EPL, AFL, uh, Formula One, MotoGP. Once you've signed that dotted line, you belong to them. So I get what they mean. But in saying that, though, you touched on it. There is generational wealth at stake if this does go through. How can you expect a player like a Jai Gray, a Zach Lomax, you know,
Yeah.
forbid a Warriors player, Storm, what have you? Why should we be upset at them for chasing generational wealth? You can't even, let's be fair, not to make this about finances, but in
Mm,
NRL as a whole, it's peanuts compared to what they pay in other sports fanatics. You and I know this. I'm not saying it's not big enough. I'm not saying it's not big money. They're getting paid well. Don't get me wrong, the NRL. But come on, if well, what are some of the contracts available at Rugby 360? Allegedly, players like Pappenhausen getting paid $2 to $3 million a year. Come on, and he doesn't even play a full season. Come on, fanatics. You know what I mean? Come on, guys. In saying that, though, I understand where they're coming from, and the NRL has a right to obviously stand and hold their ground. I will say this, though, before we go to the next topic. Peter V'landys, apparently in the last couple of weeks, he said, it doesn't affect us. Rugby 360, what a joke. Ha ha ha, says the man in the suit. Next thing you know, the man in the suit is the one throwing out the big rule here. If a player joins, they get a 10-year ban. Now, what does that say about Rugby 360? What does that say about Peter V'landys is probably more so the question. On top of that,
mm,
can you imagine if someone like Payne Haas was offered a few $1 million? He wouldn't turn it down, and he wanted to come back and play NRL. The NRL wouldn't turn him away. Let's be honest right now. Let's be real. You're not going to turn away Payne Haas. You're not going to turn away your Tino Fa'asuama Leawis, your Munsters, your Jerome Hughes. You're not going to turn them around, buddy. You're going to open the door, because at the end of the day, I think, geez, this is probably another topic on its own, but I think the players should be a brand. Maybe that's what the NRL are afraid of, is the players being their own brand, sort of similar to what happens in the NBA. I think maybe even the EPL. I think in some soccer leagues, the player is the brand, right? They don't
mm.
necessarily belong to the said product. They're their own product. It happens in the NBA, the NFL. Anyway, I'm not going to digress there, but you get my point. So, yeah, look, a lot of questions, but nonetheless, I stand where Fanatics is, in the sense that we understand where they're coming from. Are there going to be some players who are going to break the rules? I reckon you better bloom and hope that it's worth the money. That's for sure. We'll see what happens. We'll see what unfolds. Anyway, that's all there for now. Fanatics. There was another news as well. Expansion in the NRL. You and I know, guys, I'm not going to beat around the bush here. We aren't the biggest fans of this, and it's not because we don't like PNG. It's not because we don't like their rugby league. We're a big fan of the Kummels, just to be honest and upfront, we are. But
Yep.
this whole PNG NRL team, this is a different topic altogether. This is different. This is not the same as your standard Kummels team or your PM game between Australia and PNG. This is actual a team where you're going to live, be amongst a community in Port Moresby, whether you like it or not. Top 10 for the highest crimes in the world. All right, guys? We're not beating around the bush here. It's straight facts. Fanatics. Just hold the topic
Mm,
of your head, man. What are your thoughts on this, man? Because it's quite big and, yeah, it's a wowzer.
yeah, it's I think this was announced during the PM's game. And yeah, look, the name Papua New Guinea Chiefs. Look, I obviously am not the biggest fan of the PNG team coming into the NRL. I've been pretty vocal about it on Twitter, and I know there's some people that don't really, like the fact that I've been vocal. It's nothing against Papua New Guinea at all. It's just I don't like the team coming in. I'm a big fan of Papua New Guinea. I do like the players that they have. I do like watching them play in the international scene. I've always enjoyed watching PNG. I've nothing. I don't have any ill towards them. But I just don't like the idea of the team in general. In the NRL, I just don't think that. Look, I'm not going to go too into it. Because we're talking. That'll take the whole entire show up. So. In terms of the team name, I personally feel I probably could have come up with something completely different, more original. Um, the Papua New Guinea Chiefs, look, it doesn't seem original to me. Chiefs is a well-known sporting team name. When you think about it, you've got in America. There's a team last name called something Chiefs.
Kansas City Chiefs.
Kansas City Chiefs, as this ram up has just told me. So we've got rugby as well in New Zealand. You've got the Super Rugby side called the Waikato Chiefs. Um, like I think the PNG side, if you look at it, in terms of a name, maybe they personally feel like they could have come up with something a little bit better. Um, and I just feel like the name is probably not the name I would have gone with. Personally, I would have gone with something completely different. But yeah, I just don't like the name. Just don't like the name in general. I think they could have gone with something new, new and maybe a bit more fresher out of the ideas on this one. But yeah, it's massive. Obviously, it's massive. We the team coming into the NR in the next couple of years, and I stand by my opinion on it. The team coming in, I just don't know if it's going to work personally, and so many you know reasons why I feel like it won't work. Um, and more so, financially, I get it. They've been funded. I know they are funded by the Australian government. That's it's going to help them. Of course, it's going to help them having all that money. But there's also a political side to that. Having them in there as well. That's what I feel. But yeah, in terms of the name, like I say there, maybe for me it was about coming up with something completely different instead of using the Chiefs as a name. But that's what I think. So yeah, I won't digest into it a bit more than what I think there. So yeah, what do you think on it, Rams up? What do you personally feel about it all?
Yeah, look, history knows that you and I are have the same views on
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
I think, look, I'm all for Pacifica Rugby League. I'm all for
Mm,
PNG, Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, Cook Islands, Niue, what have you. I'm all for that. Vanuatu, Solomon Islands, etc. Um, but I'm not for this team. Again, questions around community safety, player safety. There'll be guards there with guns. They'll be protecting them. Players won't be just freely sleeping in nice hotels. They're going to be in literal compounds. They're going to be in isolated areas so that the fans don't come there and steal them and do all those things. Um, it's all gossy. Like Peter V'landys. Peter V'landys he's the perfect showman. He loves the glitz. He loves the glamour, but he won't show you
Yep.
about the dirt and grime, Fanatics, will he? He doesn't show you the dirt and grime.
No.
And the dirt and grime is the crime rates, as I've touched on. And look, a lot of people can be like, well, these crime in Australia, sure, but that's first world compared to third world. You've got policing here, you've got government, you've got judges, you've got all these things here that just mitigate those issues. In PNG, despite the fact they do have policing and stuff, it's not the most honorable justice system. Let's be honest right now. It isn't. History has proven that. It is what it is. My concerns primarily around player safety, and it's not just me, it's others as well. It's not just Fanatics. There are even locals as well who are against this. For me, it's just the stability. Players, will they really want to go to PNG and live there and bring their families there? And if they don't bring their families there, they've got to still live there. They're going to miss their kids. Again, PNG is not New Zealand. Again, PNG is not Perth, with all due respect. PNG is not Adelaide, it's not Sydney, it's not Melbourne, etc., etc. You get what I'm saying. And before I finish this off as well, one of the reasons why I'm also against this is it just doesn't make sense. What does PNG have to do? I mean, I understand that there's a relationship between Australia and Papua New Guinea, but there's a relationship between Australia and China. There's a relationship between Australia and Indonesia. There's a relationship between Australia and Fiji, Australia and UK, Canada.
Mm,
You know,
yep.
why isn't why, next thing you know, there's going to be a Canadian NRL team Fanatics. There's going to be an Indian NRL team. There's going to be a Chinese NRL team, right?
Yes.
You know what I mean? So the jokes just write themselves. But again, look,
Yeah.
there's a hint of seriousness in this, with all due respect. And I'll just close it off. I get the excitement, I get the hype, but I don't think people understand the practicality of it all. Before it even started, one of the board members dropped out. It's not as glitz and glamoury as we think it is, and time will tell. And I think we will be proven right here. Again, we're all for Kumo's Rugby League, International Rugby League. Love watching them play, right? But in terms of this NRL team, nah, not at all. But in saying that, we'll see what happens. But I reckon the license, look, it's going to be a little pipe dream here, an experiment gone wrong. Peter Blandy shouldn't have done this, and time will definitely be on our side. It ain't going to work, but look, and even if it doesn't, I suspect the NRL will probably just force it down our throats anyway, and that's where the real issue will start. So either way, you're screwed. NRL, you shouldn't have done it. So it is what it is. Anyway, sorry, I got a little bit passionate there, a bit fiery. Sorry, guys. Anyway, we go to the exciting part of the day. Game squad review. Now, this is where we touch on the squads, sort of what we think about the squads, and then we sort of go into the next segment. So, I'll have the honors of naming the Fijian team. Fanatics will have the honors of naming the Kakalan team, and then I'll touch on what I think about the Fiji squad. He'll touch on what he thinks about the Cook Island squad. So without further ado, we'll go straight to Fiji. So in Fiji, their fullback is Jareem Pula. Their wingers are Sonia Truva as well as Jeffro Rinakama. Their centers are Semi Baleme as well as Michael Jennings. Michael Jennings, eh? Um, their halves are Kurt Donahue from the Dolphins and Brandon Wakeham, which a former Manly player. Their forwards are Tui Kamikamika, who I believe is the captain, Benny Tangatuimua, who's the hooker, as well as Michael Waka, the prop there. Second rows have Tane Mill, who's a Tane Mill former Warriors, former Roosters player. He's been around the joint, as well as Kitione Kautoka, and your lock there is Caleb Navale. In the interchange, we see Terrell Kalokalo, Solomone Saukuru, Keresi Maya, as well as Kylan Mahfoa for the Fijian squad. Now the squad, just quickly, just a thought on it. Their backline is solid. All right, they've got speed for days. That's the thing about Fijians, as we know, Fanatics. It doesn't matter if
Yeah.
they're playing union or league. We know Fijians, when it comes to wings, they're top quality every single time. this back line here is good. The addition of Michael Jennings is interesting. It's a good one. He adds experience. Going into their halves, they're obviously Kurt Donahue and Wakeham, an untested yet somewhat experienced halves combination, particularly from Wakeham. Wakeham's played a few NRL games. Kurt Donahue only a handful of games for the Dolphins,
Mm.
uh, so it'll be good. What the thing I want to look out for is the forward pack here, particularly led by Tui Kamika, as well as Tane Milne, who appear to be their most experienced duo. I think it's going to be a good, solid squad, to be fair with you. And their interchange as well, I think, is good. Again, Mark Thor there coming off the bench. He's a good, classy player, followed by Solomon Saukuru as well. But look, overall, Fanatics, my guys, my thoughts on the squad is good. But Fiji's backline, particularly Jerome Gula, Sunia Turuba, look for them to do a lot of back plays as well. I know that the last time they played Cook Islands, they absolutely belted them. Their backs were just too good, too
Yeah.
quick for the Cook Islanders to reach. But anyway, that is the Fijian squad for you. Fanatics, over to you.
Yeah, so over to the Cook Islands team. So got fullback Esan Masters, and on the wing is Paul Alberg. The centres of Ko Ilo from the Cronulla Sharks and Ruben Rini. And then the on the wing, the other wing is Isom Isom
Ioka, Ioka.
Loka,
Yeah.
and yet 5'8" is Brad Takarangi, and halfback is Cowley. And then the prop is Makasi Makatoa, and Mason Teague is the hooker. Then you've got the other prop of Tepa Maroa and Brendan Piakura from the Bronx there in the second row with Ruben Porter and Pride Pedersen Rabaki the lock. Now to the bench. Apologies if I pronounce these names wrong. I'm giving my best here. So I got Rua Lawrence Nangat
Ngati
Nangatakura
Kaura,
Kara
Ngati Kaura. Yeah,
Kara.
Ngati Kaura.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Brody Tamara. Uh, Reese Dakin, and the 18 is Della Delahia Hia Delahia
Yeah, Delahaya.
Delahia, sorry, and yeah, Wigmore, and that's the 18. So yeah, that's the bench. So that's the Cook Islands side. So yeah, just looking at the Cook Islands team. So yeah, look, obviously, there's quite a few known names in there in terms of NRL, but when you look at it, it's probably for me Kaya Aero in those centres. I think for me as a player to watch, and Brendan Piakura in that second row, and he's had a very good season for the Broncos and a well deserved selection for the Cook Islands. Now their halfback that's got naming it, making his test debut. This is his test debut, and it's Caius Cowley. He's actually plays for the Wynnum Manly Seagulls in the Queensland Cup competition. So that's where he has come from. And then you've got Mason T, who lines up at hooker, and this is only his third international in the Cook Islands side. So it is a little bit, when you think about it, it's pretty inexperienced for Cook Islands when you look at their side. Of course, fullback wise, you got Isan Masters, who's probably not played a lot of NRL at fullback. From my memory, I don't think he's played a lot of fullback, first grade fullback in the NRL. And then of course, you've got Brad Takarangi. Now, Brad Takarangi plays a lot, of footy over his career has been in the centres. I think in the outside backs, you don't see a lot of them playing halves quite often. And I think Brad Takarangi is now playing in, I think, one of the second divisions in England, I believe. Yeah, so I haven't really seen a lot of how Brett Takarangi's been going. I know he's a good player. He's been a good player in the NRL over the years, but I haven't seen a lot of him play recently. So yeah, that the lineup. I think for me, if you're looking for players to watch for the Cook Islands, it's got to be KL Ero in the centres and then Brendan Piakura. But some of these other names in particular, The Rabbitohs actually do have a player representing for the Cook Islands, and he is actually from their New South Wales Cup side, and he's actually on the bench. But this is his seventh Test match for the Cook Islands, I believe, and that's the Rua Nakakura. Who's coming off the bench for the Cook Islands there. So, but that's their side. That's pretty much all I know about their team. But I think Cook Islands are really much an unknown side. Yeah, this is going to be a bit of a hard one for them coming up against Fiji first up. I know it's not in Fiji, which is, I don't know. It's a bit like, how do you feel, Ram
Yeah,
it up about this game not being
we'll touch
played?
on we'll
Yeah,
touch on that on the match
which we'll
previews
touch.
for sure.
Yes,
Absolutely,
yeah,
we'll touch on that, yeah, for sure. And
sure
just
we will.
quickly, a quick little thing about Cook Islands as well.
Mm,
Valentine Holmes is officially part of the coaching staff, and
yes,
he has pledged that if Cook Islands do beat South Africa, he will be
right.
representing Cook Islands at the Rugby League World Cup as
Cool.
well. FYI there. Cool. So now we move on to the next one here, and I'll give Fanatics the honors here. New Zealand, the New Zealand squad. Um, and
Yes.
yeah, and again, once we've done New Zealand and Samoa, then we'll touch on the previews for the games. But yeah, you go for it, man. Tell me the squads, give me your thoughts on the squads, and then I'll follow suit with Toa Samoa.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the Kiwis lineup. Oh, what's going on here? Just give me a sec. Oh, there it is. This computer's messing up here. Where are we? Hold on. Give me a sec. Where's this? Oh, here we are. Right. Oh, Kiwis lineup. So I believe we've got. Oh, what is this doing? Sorry, give me a sec, guys. Computer's mucking around. Okay, so there we are. All right, we got it. Whew, finally. So we've got fullback Chance Nickel Clickstad, CNK, Jermaine Osako on the wing, Matthew Timoko in the centres with Casey McLean and Ronaldo Mulitalo. 5'8", Dylan Brown and the halfback, Kieran Foran, the swan song. Kieran Foran. Is this going to be a fairy tale finish for Kieran Foran at international footy? So he's lining up there at halfback. So James Fisher Harris at prop, and of course, number 9, hooker is Jeremy Marshall King, JMK. Moses Leota, prop, and Britton near Akora in the second row with Isaiah Papali'i. And in the lock, of course, it is Joseph Tarpanay. Now, the bench is Phoenix Crossman in the 14 with Nafahu White 15, Aaron Clark, the Waz player, in 16, and Nelson Sofa Solomona in the 17. And I'll read out the reserves here. So we've got Xavier Wilson, Keno Kenny, Scott Sorensen, and Sebastian Chris. So, yeah, look, I'll go through my thoughts on the Kiwis team. So, just looking at it, I have two disagreements with this Kiwi side. And one of them in particular I'm looking at is fullback. Now, when I did my predicted Kiwi side, I had Keno Kenny at fullback. And I'm sure Ram It Up had Keno Kenny at fullback as well with his Kiwis lineup. Now, Chance Nickel Klukstad, look, I absolutely love Chance Nickel Klukstad, but I personally don't believe his form this year, if you look at the way he's been over the Wars, has warranted him a starting spot in the Kiwis lineup. I feel like that Keno Kenny was very, very, very unlucky to not be starting in this, starting for week for the Kiwis. Now, I know there's some talks that Keno Kenny didn't play a lot of first grade during the season. Maybe that's definitely played a part in Stacey Jones's thinkings because Keno Kenny has had a few injuries this year. So maybe that's definitely played a part. I know there's some people that say that too. So I can understand that sort of argument. But in saying that, I just look at it and think, Chance has probably not been at his best this year. And he probably could have picked Kino Kenny there at fullback. I personally don't think he probably, just being in the reserves, not even being on the bench, Kino Kenny is a bit of a, disappointment in itself. So, yeah, that's one selection I don't agree with. Look, the other players, fine. I'm happy with the back line. I'm happy with Jermaine Osako, Matthew Timoko, and Casey McLean. I'm very happy with that. And Ronaldo Mulitalo. I like that back five. The halves, I know there's going to be some people saying some question mark about the halves as well. It's probably not our strongest halves. Let's be real. Let's be honest here. I like Kieran Foran. I love him, but Jerome Hughes is the biggest blow for this Kiwis team, not having him there with Dylan Brown, because he would have partnered Dylan Brown. So, of course, you got the experienced veteran forward, and you got Dylan Brown in the halves. So, I'm just interested to see how that goes as a combination. The forward pack's particularly strong, of course, with Fisher Harris, Neokora, and Papali'i and Tapane. Look, I think that's no. I think maybe you could probably argue against maybe Tapane being lock, and maybe put Tapane to prop and have Moses Leota coming off the bench with Aaron Clark at lock. I know a lot of people were saying that Aaron Clark was very unlucky to not be that starting 13. And I do agree. I personally would have had Aaron Clark starting in the lock position. Look, I know I'm biased and a Wires fan, but I would have had him in there personally. And I think Tarpanay would still be in the side for me, but I think I probably would have had him at prop personally from my point of view. But the bench again, Phoenix Crossan, Nafahu White, probably. Oh, look, I don't disagree with that. But Nelson the Sofa Solomona is one of the biggest ones that I personally don't necessarily think should be, he should be in there. And Nelson the Sofa Solomona, his year this year, we've seen him in and out of that Melbourne Storm side quite frequently. He's not been able to be consistent. He's had some ill-disciplined moments, which really do worry me if he does come onto the field, if he's going to give away a penalty, make it, do something dumb and silly. But I don't think Nelson should be in the side. I feel like Xavier Wilson, if you look at his season for the Broncos and how consistent he was throughout the season, if you're going to reward players on form and performance, Stacey, you've got to pick Xavier Wilson. And Xavier Wilson in the reserves is just crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy thinking. I don't understand it. So my feeling is with this Kiwi side is, it is a good side, don't get me wrong, but there are some selections that, I'm shaking my head going, what is going on here? I don't understand them. Half of them I just don't understand. But yeah, in general, just I don't know. Wrap it up. I'm going to ask you, what do you feel about the Kiwis lineup before you get into the Samoa side? Just what are your feelings about it?
Yeah, look, very similar to yours.
Mm,
The inclusion of Nas is interesting. We understand why
yeah.
he's in there. We know that he brings that physicality, but to
Mm,
be fair, he brings penalties, he brings drop balls, he brings a potential sin bin. So, look, it's a decision that wasn't made lightly. I'm sure it's a risk reward type thing, but I feel like in this game here, you don't need many risks, and Nas is a big risk heading into this game here, particularly because it's against Samoa. There's context as well to this. Nelson Asofa Solomona is a proud Samoan as well. He is a New Zealander. So we know he's going to try and bash a few of his brothers. Come on, it is what it is. Stacey Jones shouldn't have picked him for that. But yeah, Wilson, yeah, just not being in the squad is crazy. Being the 18th man, yeah, I would have definitely had Clark at lock or Naufahu White interchange. But yeah, most likely Clark at lock, and then shifted Tapine to the prop. Have a 3-man rotation there. As for Cenac at the fullback, goodness me, I don't want to harp on too much here, but disappointing. It looks like Stacey has put on his Warriors cap in some of the selections, or should I say in that selection, and not
yeah.
to go there. And I think that's what Fanatics was sort of avoiding, but I've just hit it on the head there. He's done his Warriors selection there. Not fair on Guinea. I get why though. Guinea hasn't played a lot of league, to be fair with you, TBH. But in
Yeah.
saying that, as Fanatics touched on, Sinak's form definitely plummeted, unfortunately, halfway during the season. But look, in saying that, outside of that, I think the squad's good, good backline,
Yeah.
good everything. So yeah, no real complaints aside from that. But yeah, that's probably thoughts there. But in saying that, we'll go into Toa Samoa, and oh boy, you
Ooh.
look, whether you support Samoa or not, you got to be licking your lips. Your fullback is Roger Tuivasa Sheck, and your wingers are Murray Kaulangi as well as Brian To'o. Your centers are Isaac Tako as well as Dean Mariner. Your halves combination is Blaze Talangi as well as Jerome Luai, who is the captain. Your props are Josh Papali as well as Payne Haas. Massive inclusion. Your hooker there is Jazz Tevanga. Your second rows are Jeremiah Nanai as well as Jaden Su'a. And your lock, as well as I believe assistant or co-captain, is Junior Paulo. Your interchange is Shinahers Tabita, Simi Sasaki, Terrell May, as well as Francis Moro. Look, guys, this back line and forward pack, my goodness, my goodness. Now, obviously, we want to touch on the preview of the game, but before we even touch on it, just look at the names I've named. It's quality right from the get go. And to be fair with you, it's not the strongest spine, but in no means is it the weakest spine, right? You got Tevanga at hooker, you got Luai and Kalangi and RTS. You can't go too wrong there for
Yep.
Samoa. I think it's probably the best out of the Pacific nations outside the Kiwis. To be fair with you, I'll, in saying that though, I reckon it might be better than the Kiwi spine. I think. Some may disagree, but I mean, to be fair with you, Blaze Talangi didn't have a bad season playing for the
Yep.
Panthers. Dylan Brown didn't have the greatest season playing for the Eels. It's. I
No.
don't think it's that far off. I might even go into venture and say that Samoa has the better spine. That's a debate for. Well, that's a debate we can have very soon, actually. Anyway,
Yeah.
look at that forward pack: Payne Haas and Josh Papali. Talk about back of the fence stuff there. These boys are going to add that spirit that Tor Samoa have. Physical aggression. It's going to be body after body after body after body. Junior bowler at lock. Look at their wingers here. I mean, look, I think I've said enough, but after Payne Haas goes off from to the bench, you got Terrell May, you got Francis Molo, you got Simi Sasaki. These guys are going to add so much impact and dynamite to this Tosa Moore team. Look at myself. I'm grinning, Fanatics. I'm grinning. I actually can't wait for
Yeah.
this game.
Yep.
That backline, RTS, we all know what he's going to bring. We all know what Brian Toto's going to bring. We all know what Luai is going to bring, what Haas is going to bring. I can't wait to see this game actually unfold, and we'll talk about it. And I can't wait to see this team unfold. Having Chanel Harris Tavita as well in interchange is good. Max and I spoke about this as well off the cuff, behind closed doors. We spoke about Chanel Harris Tavita. He can be a hooker. He can be your 5'8". He can be your lock. He's such a versatile player. He's going to bring that much needed Mr. Handyman, if you will, for Tor Samoa, and he's the perfect man for that job. But goodness me, Jeremiah Nanai, Jaden Su'a, these guys on a good day, you don't want to mess with them on a good day. But yeah, look, if you don't understand what I'm saying, my smile I think says it enough. It's a brilliant squad. So that's my thoughts there. Anyway, guys, we're gonna go straight into it. The match previews and predictions, anytime scorer results, all that jazz. Right. First of all, starting off with Fiji versus Cook Islands. I might take the lead on this one here. Fanatics first.
Yep.
Fiji versus Cook Islands will be a very good game. I do feel, however, it might be a replica of last year. Fiji's backline was just too good. As soon as they touched the ball, it was like they were playing. I know in Fiji they play this game called one touch, right? You only get touched once and you hand the ball over, and they do a lot of pass. That's where they get their flair from. Is the young kids in Fiji play a lot of that one touch and all that jazz. But it was like they were playing one touch against Cook Islands. They got the ball as soon as Cook Islands came near and bang, pass the ball. Winger scores, Turuva scores. And that's when Kika was playing as well. So it was such a good game. Look, I don't think Lions will threaten too much. They might probably put up a bit of fight in the first 10, 15 minutes, but I don't know. I just feel like Fiji, particularly a forward pack, will be just too much for the Cook Islands here.
Mm.
Score wise, anytime try score. Look, you can't go wrong with Jareem Bula. Watch for him to score a few tries. To be fair with you, I'll call him an anytime try scorer. Um, Man of the match prediction, I reckon I'll probably go with Jareem Buller. I reckon it'll be a Jareem Buller. Jareem Buller or my smoky will be Tane Milne. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the Cook Islands here. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the Cook Islands here, but I just don't think their backline and Fanatics touched on it as well. There's an inexperience going on in their halves as well. It's I don't know. We're going to see the backline do a lot of work here for Fiji. I reckon Fiji 13 plus. Look, I'll say something silly here. Probably 52 points to 12. Honestly, something like that. Look, Fanatics. Hopefully, you can bring it in a lot closer than I have. But I think Fiji are going to be just too attacking for Kokans here. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I just looking at the Fiji side and their backline in particular. Well, I don't really need to harp on too much about it, but like I say, it's one of them strengths of Fiji. Like you look at whatever sport it is, whether it be rugby sevens or rugby 15s or and rugby league. The backline has always been their strength. It's always been their strength because they've got the pace to burn out wide, and the Fiji side just have a ton of it. The back five, especially Karuva, Semi Valame, and you got the experienced veteran of Michael Jennings as well. You got Jeffro Rinikawa as well, who's making his debut. And a big shout out to him. He's making his debut for the Bati on the wing there. And he actually came from a train and trial contract at the Bulldogs during the season, and he got himself a training trial deal, and then he made his debut against the Cowboys, I believe, early this year in round 19. So, and he scored a few tries, so he's been pretty good for coming into the Dogs, which has come into that Dogs lineup. And I think his preseason was pretty big during the year, which earned him that contract as well. So yeah, man, this back line is so good, and you got their four pack is not too bad as well. Tui Kamakamika, Penny Tangatamua, Tane Milne. Their halves, I know, in particular, probably not a lot of experience in terms of NRL games as a whole, but they've played a lot of rugby league though. Kurt Donahue and Brendan Wakeham as well. So I just think they've got so much in their favour over the Cook Islands. And look, no, not trying to disrespect the Cook Islands here. I do want to see them go well. I do want to see them put up a fight as well. But unfortunately, I think this is going to be one-way traffic for Fiji. I think they'll win and they'll win well. But just the talent on the show from Fiji, Cook Islands. They've got some good players as well. KL Ero, he's probably going to need to play a big part. Brendan Piakura in that second row as well. So and their spine is just just looking at the Cook Islands spine, it's not really good in terms of experience. Let's be fair. Some of these younger players as well. So yeah, prediction wise, I'm going to say Fiji will win this one 40 points to the Cook Islands 18. Yeah, 40 to 18. I think Cook Islands will score a couple of tries, but I think Fiji would just be too good. But look, I wouldn't be surprised if they score 50 Fiji. They can probably put on 50. And look, if Fiji don't win this is going to be a real shock and a real surprise. If they don't pull out and win this game, I'll be sincerely surprised and shocked. So first try scorer, I'm gonna back in Sunia Turuva first try scorer. Anytime try scorer, why not? I'm gonna go Brendan Wakeham to score, and I'm gonna go for the Cook Islands. I'm gonna go with Ruben Reedy and KL Ero to score. For the Cook Islands, but yeah, Fiji to be too strong for me, and I think they'll be way too good. they'll show their class in this game over this Cook Islands team.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's fair. In saying it though, we go on to the main event: New Zealand Kiwis versus Toa Samoa. Fanatics, I'll let you go and take the reins in. I'll follow suit to close it off. Give me your thoughts on this game here. I want to hear it. Come on.
Yeah, look, I'm not very confident. I won't lie. I'm sort of a little bit worried about this one. Because one being that Samoa named probably for me the strongest side. I know there's an argument for the halves battle and who's got the better halves, and mate. But you look at it, with both teams we've covered up on when we've done the reviews for squads. The Kiwis, man, look, obviously going into this game as the favourites, you're at home. There you go, medium Mount Smart Stadium in Auckland. Really, it's home ground advantage mean that much. I think you'll see a lot of Samoan support too. Um, Apparently, this game is not sold out, so that's not good to hear. Um, Apparently, ticket prices are not really affordable for a lot of people at the moment. So, which is really disappointing. And I don't know what the promotion is like for this game over in New Zealand. I don't know how much of a promotion this is getting. But it's very disappointing if that's the case, since this game's not a sellout. Look, and in particular, there's nothing really on. There's no rugby on over there. Besides what I've known, it's just the local competition. But it's really disappointing to hear that it's not apparently a sold out game. But yeah, look, this game for me, look, I really want the Kiwis to win. I would love for them to win this game, and it for me, I feel like this is probably going to be a bit more competitive than what people think it's going to be. I think the Samoan side are a lot stronger than what they were the last time they played the Kiwis, and the last time they played in the Pac Championships, and I think the last time they played was against England last year, but that wasn't their strongest side that they took to England, and they lost that series. Man, look, I hope the Kiwis can get up. I really do. I think the importance for the Kiwis is going to be how they contain the Samoan back five. I think the Samoan side have got a better back five than the Kiwis, personally. Um, I think their backline's a lot better. I think I will say that the halves, look, Kieran Foran and Dylan Brown, they haven't had the best of seasons in the NRL. And Kieran Foran, we know he's retiring. He'll be retiring after this Pacific Championship as well, probably, from what I'm hearing. But yeah, Samoa, you got Jerome Luai, you got Blaze Talangi. Yes, Talangi's not, very experienced in the halves, but he's had a strong back end of the year for Penrith in the halves. Jerome Luai is going to be the key for Samoa, I think, personally. I think if Jerome Luai has a very strong game, it's going to be a bit of a, tough ask for the Kiwis. So it sounds like, if you're watching this, you'll be thinking, oh, it sounds like he's actually saying the Kiwis are underdogs. Well, look, I wouldn't say we're underdogs, but it's going to be a tougher game than what people make it out to be. So, oh man, look, the Samoan team is packed with a lot of good players. And yeah, it's just for me. I find that, looking at it, if the Kiwis back forward pack, if the Samoans can limit the Kiwi four pack, the Samoan pack can have a big game. And limit the Kiwis four pack. I think he'll go a long way to winning this game. And I think Samoa can produce a real surprising shock upset over this Kiwis team. And I don't think it'll be a shock upset, to be honest. Some people will make it out to be, but it won't be. But like I say, key players for Samoa: Jerome Luai, Blaze Talangi. I think that partnership's going to be really interesting. They have not played a lot together, so it might be a little bit shaky early on. You might see a few missed kicks, missed passes. The Samoan attack may not click into gear straight away. So, yeah, I think Blaze Talangi is going to really play a less of an ownership role to Jerome Luai. And yeah, look, Samoa, you look at Brian To'o. the best winner in rugby league world at the moment for me by far. And yeah, you can go on about their four pack of Papali'i, Nanai, Sua. But I think for me the biggest concern for Samoa is probably at hooker. Jazz Savanga really look for me. In all due respect, Jazz Savanga, I like him as a player, but he's not really a hooker. We know that as Warriors fans, we've seen it over the years when he has fallen in that spot. But you've got Harris Tavita as well, so it's a good player to have. Like you say, he can cover that hooker spot. He can come on, play a bit of hooker, or he can play a bit of halves as well. But I personally don't think Jazz Savanga will play a full 80 at hooker. I think they'll really rotate that position. But in terms of prediction wise for this game, I am going to go on limb and say this will be very tight, very close. I am going to bet the Kiwis in here, but I think it'll be not much in it. I'm going to say Kiwis 29. That's right, 29 Kiwis. Samoa 26. 29-26. And first try scorer, I think Samoa might score the first try in this game, and they're gonna get their fans up on their seats, cheering, very vocal, and probably the Samoan fans. You'll probably hear more from the Samoan fans more than the Kiwi fans because wouldn't be shocked there, and that wouldn't be a surprise. But Brian Toe score first, and anytime try scorer, I'm gonna go with Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, RTS at fullback. Murray Talangi, and I'm going to go with, for the Kiwis, we'll go with Casey McLean and Ronaldo Mulitalo, I think, will score. But what is your thoughts here, Ram it up, on this game, and what is your prediction? How do you feel
Yeah,
about this
look,
one?
yeah. No, look. First of all, cheers for that. Cheers for
Uh,
your preview. I think you definitely touched on all things there. I will say this though before I get deeper. Um, there's no questions asked here that if Samoa lose this game, I think that's more of a shock. I think that's more of a shock because Tor Samoa have brought up such a formidable squad, right from 1 down to 13, that
yep.
I think if the Kiwis win, that's an upset. I think. Obviously, the bookies disagree because the bookies are tipping the Kiwis to win. I get it. But I'm just going to go on a limb and say that I think Tor Samoa's squad and their spine, as I touched on, is better than the
Mm,
Kiwis. Um,
yep.
Now, not trying to be disrespectful to Foreign, but we got to
Yeah.
remember Foreign hasn't played a lot of NRL this season. He was out for quite some time due to injuries, in and out of the Titan squad. So we got to remember that. So he hasn't had much time to polish the boots there, so to
Mm,
speak. Um, Look at the RTS and Charles Nicole Cookstad head-to-head matchup. Obviously, both those Warriors players. RTS will be looking to prove a point just quietly to Stacey Jones and obviously Mr. Andrew Webster there, if you will,
yep.
about why he believes he should be the fullback, just quietly. But look, if you look at the forward pack matchup, I think Samoa have it over the Kiwis, in my opinion. I
Yeah.
think the likes of Nanai Su'a against Sorensen and Papali'i for the Kiwis. I don't even think that's really much of a. Sorry, the likes of Britain Nikora, Papali'i versus Nanai and Su'a. I think that's about even, but I'll still go probably in the way of
Mm,
more there, in my opinion. Um, the props, I think, with all due respect, I think I'm going to have to go the way of Payne Haas and Josh Papali'i, to be fair with you.
true.
Um, the back line there, I agree with what you said, Fanatics. I'm going to have to give it to the key to the Torso more. Maybe the big maybe is probably in the halves. Obviously, we're going to look at the bench. Phoenix Crossland, I think, will play a pivotal role for the Kiwis coming off the bench. We can't forget what he did last year for the Kiwis. Okay, I thought he had a stellar season there for the Kiwis, and he was arguably one of the better players to don the black jersey. Just quietly, for all you anti-Crossland fans out there. Yeah, I'm looking at you guys there. Look, coming off the bench, he'll be pivotal for the Kiwis as well as Tor Samoa. I will say this though, Terrell May is a big inclusion, obviously coming off the bench. But Nofahu White and Aaron Clark aren't bad to have off the bench as well. Obviously Nelson Asofa Solomona, there's going to be a lot of question marks as to what role he plays. Okay, but you touched on the crowd there. Look, there'll be a definite sea of blue. Probably won't be as crowded as the sea of red there, unfortunately, as Fanatics touched on, due to
Yeah.
ticket prices and the fact that it's on a Sunday as well. Very silly, very silly. Not to make this
Yes.
religious, but as for those of you guys who don't know, Tonga and Samoa, very religious, very Christian countries. To have a game on a Sunday, silly, very silly. Shame on the NZRL for not having the guts to stand up and say, "Hey, let's have this game on a Saturday. Let's have this game on a Friday," as Fanatics suggested. So, they're the hosts. The Kiwis are the hosts. Why didn't they say it? I don't know. Anyway, I'll leave that for another time.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, if Port Samoa are to win this game, this is how I envision it. They need to strike front on and head on in the first 20 minutes. It needs to be go, go, go. Payne Haas leading from the front, followed by Josh Papali, sorry, and then obviously Junior Paulo, and obviously, as you touched on, Fanatics, Luai, and Talangi doing their magic work, finished off by Tuvasashek. There's so many players in this Tor Samoa team that you can look at. Look at Brian To'o, Taulangi, look at the players. But yeah, I think really it should be a fast start. Give the Kiwis no chance to breathe, no chance to grasp what's happening. It needs to be a Samoan assault from the forward pack to the back line. I think that's probably the best chance they have to unsettle. You did touch on some things though. You touched on Blaze Talangi. He can have a game where it can be quite shocking. To be fair with you, he's had a few of those games with Panthers, and he had that game against the Broncos. He wasn't on his best form, and there were some things he did that unfortunately cost him in that game against the Broncos. Will he turn up, or will he be a bit fumbly? Another thing as well, we've got to remember, despite Junior Paulo being in the team, bit of a shaky season. He's not the same Paulo we know of 2-3 years ago.
No.
Fitness may be in question. That's the thing that's the thing that is always asked of the Pacifica teams. To be fair with you, New Zealand as well, but not as much. But you get my point. Is the fitness? We know Haas is going to go for days. Well, the question is Papali going to go for days? Is Sua? Is Paulo? Right? Is Jeremiah Nanai? And the answer is no. Let's be fair. No, they're not. They're not. So those are the questions I have. I'm not going to question Samoa's attack. I'm not going to question their defense. I think they'll be quite on. But the question is their fitness. Their fitness. And again, yeah, I think anyway. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, but you get my point. Tor Samoa, if they come in quick and fast and tough and rough and up the gut, I think they could definitely be in for a good night out in New Zealand. But if the Kiwis play that game that they played, conservative, free-flowing footy, sort of what they played against PNG, and I think even what they played against Tonga, despite losing, it's sort of ad-lib footy led by the likes of Dylan Brown, Kieran Foran. Kieran Foran, we know he's a good kick manager. He's not crazy. He's not a crazy footy player like Sean Johnson. And I mean, when I say crazy, I mean heads up. He just knows what to do right there and then with traffic coming. Kieran Foran likes a bit of time. His kicking game is going to be so pivotal for this Kiwi squad. It's going to allow the players like Leota, Fisher Harris, your backline as well to recuperate. And again, speaking of backline, Olitalo, Aisako, we can't leave them out. They're good strike weapons. Your center pairing as well, they can be clean, etc. Chance looks that we'll see. But look, I've sung my praises about Tor Samoa, but I will leave you guys with this. I think the weakness for Tor Samoa possibly is their stamina. They can't rely on Payne Haas to be the front man doing all the work. They can't rely on Terrell May coming off the bench doing the same thing. They're going to need the other boys to answer. I believe, despite what the bookies say, I believe that if Tor Samoa lose the game, it's a surprise. Okay, it is. Now, in terms of picking, look, I was born in New Zealand, raised a little bit in New Zealand. but I think for this, I'm gonna have to do it. Despite how I feel, I'm gonna have to tip Tor Samoa for this one here. Unfortunately, no, not unfortunately. I think it is what it is. I want to back Tor Samoa here to win. I think overall they're going to be too good, too strong, but it's going to be a close game. It's going to be an arm wrestle. Um, I reckon Tor Samoa 20 points to 16. But in saying that, do not be surprised if the Kiwis win 13 plus. Do not be surprised if the Kiwis
Mm.
win 13 plus. Fanatics, I think. Anyway, before we sort of close this off, Fanatics, I'll let you have a few words because it looks like you're at the brim there. You want to say something? Any last words about the game and stuff like that? And before I go, anytime try score, I think will be Brian To'o, man of the match. I reckon will probably be, I reckon, maybe Kieran Foran. Um, and yeah, 16 to 20, toss Samoa's way. But don't be surprised if the Kiwis pull on 13 plus. Fanatics, do you have anything to say before we close things off about the game or anything else?
No, I think yeah, we've all pretty much covered it. We've had a great show. It's been awesome to jump on and do this again. Like I say, it's always a pleasure. But yeah, look, it's going to be really good to see some footy this weekend. And just have some general rugby league on. I know people are, already having withdrawals already. What to watch? Some people who probably don't follow a lot of other sports, but I have a lot of other sports, so I'm not too too withdrawal with no rugby league on. So, but in saying it, it's just great having some footy on this week. Pacific Championship over the next couple of weeks, and looking forward to this game. Kiwis and Samoa, especially, and Fiji Cook Islands will be interesting to watch because you'll be able to watch both teams in action and see how the likes of Fiji go and Cook Islands. But yeah, thanks for having me on, and go the mighty Kiwis, as I say. Hopefully the Kiwis get up. But look, it's not going to be a shock if the Kiwis don't you know don't if they don't get up. I mean, if they do get up, that's great. But if they lose, I wouldn't be surprised either way. It wouldn't be shocked to me, to be honest. But you've tipped Samoa, so we'll see what happens. But I'm hoping for a Kiwis win on Sunday. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
No, you're absolutely welcome and thank you. And guys, we're going to be doing as well next Wednesday. You want to be here. We're going to review the game. We're going to preview the games as well that's coming up. We're going to be here again next week. But in saying that, Fanatics, thank you again for jumping on. Looking forward to the footy. I know England squad was named. We might even touch on that next week. But in saying
Yep.
that, though, thanks again, guys, for watching. Take care. Take it easy. Good luck to the teams that are playing. And yeah, bring back the Rams. See you guys later. Take it easy.
Bring back the Rams.